We're going to go ahead and begin the Senate Committee on Education, and we welcome you, those of you that are joining us online or present by phone. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Vice Chair Dondero Loop.
Here.
Senator Hardy.
Here.
Senator Hammond.
Here.
Senator Lang.
Here.
Senator Buck.
Here.
Senator Danyate.
Here.
Chair Dennis.
Here, thank you. So everyone's here. We do have a quorum. And just because we're probably going to have a lot of testimony today, just for those on video, please keep yourself muted when you're not speaking. Committee information is available on Nellis, which is our program that we use for the legislature, which can be accessed through the legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through Nellis or the legislature's YouTube channel. If testifying or providing public comment, please register to participate through Nellis. You will receive an email confirmation with the call-in information, and you can do that anytime. You need to do it before you want to give public comment. Detailed instructions for participating are available on the help page, linked in a banner at the top of every page on Nellis. When testifying, state and spell your name and affiliation, if any. And then we're going to take testimony on the bill during the presentation, and then we'll take regular public comment at the end of the meeting, and that will be limited to 2 minutes. Both testimonies will be limited to 2 minutes per person, to try to make that adjustment. If you have more, you can submit in writing your comments and then just summarize them when you speak. You also may submit written comments as outlined on the agenda by emailing or faxing them to the committee manager. And courtesy and respect in our interactions, even when we may not agree. So with that, we are ready to begin. We have on our agenda today to hear Senate Bill 173. So I'm going to go ahead and open the hearing on Senate Bill 173. And we have Senator Dondero Loop, who will be presenting the bill.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. For the record, I am Marilyn Dondero Loop, representing Senate District 8 in Clark County. I am pleased to present Senate Bill 173, the Back on Track Act, for your consideration today. With me today is State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Joan Ebert, who will provide additional context and details for this bill. The COVID-19 pandemic forced many schools to close their doors and suddenly transition to distance learning. This phrase, distance learning, has been said so many times that sometimes we forget to take a moment to reflect on how this fundamentally shifted and disrupted schooling. The transition was difficult for our students, families, educators, and support staff. As we consider everything we have all been through, we should take great pride in how our communities have worked together to face these challenges, and we should acknowledge all of those who have gone above and beyond to do the best for our kids in difficult circumstances. Parents, teachers, and school administrators are to be commended for adapting, but the simple fact is in-person instruction cannot be replicated. We know that learning loss because of the pandemic is a crisis that threatens to set many of our kids back, leaving a widened achievement gap and children behind. If we don't work now to correct it, it will have implications for their educational development for years to come. Research indicates this learning loss, sometimes referred to as the COVID slide, may set some students' educational development back as much as 2 years. In some cases, the effects may be felt into adulthood, included reduced educational attainment and learning potential. The damaging effects of learning loss can be even bigger setback for communities that are already disadvantaged socially and economically. One thing is certain, virtual learning does mean unequal learning. We already know that learning loss is widening racial disparities in education. Research by McKinsey and Company and the Education Commission of the States indicates the negative impacts of virtual schooling may be greatest for low-income Black and Hispanic students. This impact may be partly due to those students having a higher risk of limited time or lower quality remote instruction and uneven access to devices and the internet compared to their peers. According to the McKinsey and Company research, if schools returned to class in January 2021, students who are white may experience 6 months of learning loss compared to typical in-class learning. However, Hispanic students may experience more than 9 months of learning loss, Black students may experience over 10 months of learning loss, and low-income students may experience more than 12 months of learning loss, over twice as much as students who are white. But let me be clear, even 1 month of learning loss is unacceptable for any of our students. The same research estimates that the economic impact of student learning loss to individuals and society in the scenario where in-class learning resumes in January 2021, McKinsey and Company estimate that the average kindergarten through 12th grade student could lose between $61,000 and $82,000 in lifetime earnings. The research further examines this impact on the United States as a whole, citing an estimated gross domestic product loss of 173 to 271 billion each year, which could negatively affect the country's competitiveness in the world. It is critical that we recognize that learning loss is not just a problem for students and their families. This is a significant community, state, and nationwide problem with far-reaching effects. As a former 30-year educator myself, I know firsthand there is no substitute for one-on-one instruction time with students at any grade level in any subject. Our teachers are essential to the success of our kids, and there is simply no way to replicate in-person instruction and that one-on-one time with students. We must work to address the learning loss resulting from the past year in order to make sure our students don't fall behind. We need to know how many students are going, what our students are doing on a day-to-day basis, sustain their interest over the summer, and use this time in the classroom so they are more prepared to return to school in the fall. Finally, I want to acknowledge that we are discussing today is only possible because of the American Rescue Plan that Congress passed and President Biden signed into law just last week. I want to specifically thank Senator Cortez Masto, Senator Rosen, Congresswoman Titus, Congressman Horsford, and Congresswoman Lee for voting for this bill. These critical relief dollars coming to Nevada schools have allowed us to bring forward the Back on Track Act, which asks our school districts to develop plans to provide options for both virtual and in-person summer school. This bill will help move the state and our school districts through that planning process, ensuring that hundreds of millions of dollars in federal aid intended to mitigate learning loss is being put to work for students. I will now walk you through the legislation. The Back on Track Act, Senate Bill 173, contains an initial roadmap with next steps in the fight to combat learning loss in two distinct ways. First, it allows an avenue for intensive and targeted services for students. Second, the bill creates a way to measure the problem in more depth so we can fully understand the extent of learning loss. Within 30 days after the bill is signed into law, Section 1 authorizes the Board of Trustees of each school district and the State Public Charter School Authority to submit to the state superintendent a plan to address any learning loss experienced by pupils as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The plan would include the following: the option for pupils to attend summer school either in person or online, and the manner in which the schools and districts or charter schools will target pupils most at risk of learning loss. Examples of students most at risk of learning loss are outlined in the bill, but some of those mentioned are students with disabilities, those who are chronically absent, those who are enrolled in grades 1 through 3 and are struggling in math and reading, and those who lack the financial resources necessary to access services to address learning loss. Section 1 also requires a school district or charter school offering summer school, as provided in this bill, to include transportation and meal services. School districts, when they submit their plans, can design their transportation policy to fit the needs of their students. Additionally, it outlines requirements for summer school personnel and authorizes use of federal money to administer the program. Senate Bill 173 requires that personnel who are hired for summer school programs, including but not limited to teachers, support personnel, and other licensed personnel, receive supplemental pay equal to their contract rate. Section 2 of Senate Bill 173 requires school districts and charter school authority to submit a plan to the state superintendent by October 31st of this year regarding a report to the state superintendent by October 31st regarding any plan to address learning loss, including information related to summer school and the use of federal money for that purpose. Nevada's Department of Education will then submit a report that's consolidated by November 30th of this year to the governor and the legislature. As mentioned before, the degree to which the pandemic impacted some areas of K-12 education are still unknown. So this information gathered in these reports will be critical to understanding the severity of the situation we already know exists. Before I turn our presentation over to Superintendent Ebert, I would like to place on the record 2 amendments. The first amendment is being submitted with consultation with the Fiscal Services Division of the Legislative Counsel Bureau. The conceptual amendment is to delete on page 3 of the bill, section 1, subsection 6, lines 13 through 18, dealing with the reversion language. The second amendment is to set a sunset date of December 31st, 2021 on this measure. These conceptual amendments can be found on Nellis. And now I would like to turn the presentation over to Superintendent Joan Ebert for her remarks.
Thank you, Senate committee members. Thank you, Vice Chair Dondero-Loop, for your leadership on this bill and for including the Nevada Department of Education and the many other stakeholders in this critical work. It's important for all of us to acknowledge that regaining our equilibrium as a society is going to take every single one of us. And we at the Nevada Department of Education are working hard in partnership with the governor, the State Board of Education, legislators, our stakeholders, and everyone that is looking forward to and getting out of where we're at and beyond the COVID recovery mark where we are today. It's our job to provide all of our students what our parents want for them, and that is a pathway to success. Every child that's willing to work hard will have our unwavering support so that they can graduate with the tools they need to build a home, a life, and a future. This act is an important part of every school district to deliver our promise to our students and their families. As Senator Dondero-Loop said so eloquently, there's no replacement for a highly effective educator. I share her deep appreciation for all of the parents, grandparents, siblings, caretakers, other family members, and mentors who went above and beyond to support our students during distance learning. But we know that students who rely on the supports and interventions that only teachers can provide have struggled during this pandemic. The conversation that SB 173 has opened in Nevada is part of a national dialogue. The American Rescue Plan, which will invest $1.1 billion in the state of Nevada and our education system, acknowledges the unique opportunity to leverage summer learning to support our educational recovery. And to ensure students are getting the support they need, districts will be asked to identify the tools they will use to measure student progress in their plans. This helps identify the student areas of need and promote equity and the ability for our educators to tailor instruction as they come into our school buildings. In addition, it helps assure parents and families that their children are seeing positive outcomes as a result of this additional learning opportunity. Of the $1.1 billion that will be coming to our state, 90% of those funds will go directly to the districts and schools. And at least 20% must be used to address learning loss. Of the 10% of the funds that NDE may reserve for statewide activities, at least 5% must be used to address learning loss. At least 1% must be used towards summer enrichment programming, and another 1% must be invested in after-school programs. I am proud that Nevada is once again poised to lead the way in our COVID-19 recovery, thanks to this legislative proposal. Thank you all for your continued leadership and support.
Thank you, Superintendent. Over the past year, we've experienced some of the most challenging circumstances with nuanced impacts across Nevada's school districts. It is clear that our students and schools continue to face significant hurdles from pandemic's impacts. This is not the time to sit back and wait to see how bad the situation is, or just accept that this loss of learning as a new reality or a new normal. Our kids, our educators, our families, our communities, and our state deserve more. These unprecedented times call for a consistent and guided response plan to address the profound learning loss and other issues experienced across our communities. I am hopeful that by providing these next steps to our schools, that we will confront the learning loss, achievement gaps, and underlying inequities that have been amplified by the pandemic and get our students back on track. Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for considering Senate Bill 173. I urge your support of this bill, and Superintendent Ebert and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Senator Dunderloop. We're going to take some questions here. I know that we have some additional presentation after, but let's do these on the bill now. So questions that you might have for committee members. Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We listed the various groups that didn't do well. What became of the micro schools in North Las Vegas and their ability to not get into as much challenge with having learning loss? Do we have any of those kinds of statistics or observations? And are they going to be going forward as part of a plan?
Senator Hardy, this is Senator Dondero Loop, and I'm going to ask Superintendent to join in here, but I have not, I do not have that information with me. And this money that is coming from the federal government is specifically identified public schools and charter schools, but I will let Superintendent Ebert chime in.
Thank you. For the record, Joan Ebert. I actually had the pleasure of visiting the micro schools right after the winter break, and they did share specific data with me. So that was back a few months ago. I do not have any current data, but there were two sets to the program. One with having the students being able to continue learning in an environment, as well as part of the program was CCSD students. And so the ability for students to go to the venue and continue their learning at a distance was made available for CCSD students, and then the micro component as well. But I would ask, I'm more than happy to reach out to them for current data, but the data that they had at the time did show the students were on track.
I kind of lost that last. Did you say they were on track or they were off track?
On track.
That would be a good thing. Thank you.
Other questions? I'm not seeing any additional questions. Senator Dondero Loop, I know you have some additional presentation.
Yes, sir. We have, Mr. Chair and committee members, Marilyn Dondero Loop for the record. We have 3 additional persons to speak to you on this measure before you go to support, opposition, and neutral. And they are Lauren Wong, who will be speaking for her brother, a Nevada Youth Legislator, Alex Wong, and Crystal Walker, if she was able to join us, speaking for her friend, Nevada Youth Legislator, Joanna Bieda. And following them will be a statement from Yesenia Gonzalez, a parent. And we ask that you read that, Chair Dennis.
Thank you. All right, so with that, if we have Lauren. There you are. All right, go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Lauren Wong, a member of the Nevada Youth Legislature District Youth Advisory Council, and I'm honored to present testimony on behalf of Alexander Wong, United States Senate Youth Delegate from Nevada and Nevada Youth Legislator. Alexander is attending USSYP's Washington Week and asked me to speak on his behalf. Members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, as a Nevada Youth Legislator representing 40,000 students in Senate District 8, I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony on this important bill, SB 173, the Back on Track Act. My generation is confronting something no other generation before us has ever experienced in the history of modern times, a global pandemic that has effectively shut down our schools, businesses, and life as we know it. The deleterious effects of school closures have yet to be seen in the long term. But we know that in the short term, the inability to be in a classroom environment that fosters the desire to learn has had a devastating effect on student achievement and a damaging impact on our mental health. I personally saw the detrimental effects early on in the pandemic last April, when online learning was launched. In the beginning, most of my classmates showed up for our virtual classes. Then, as the days and weeks passed, that number significantly dwindled as students lost motivation and the backsliding began. Our mental health also began to deteriorate as we felt a sense of hopelessness during the lockdown. The struggle to stay motivated to learn while looking at a laptop in your house day after day is real. I'm proud to be from the battle-born state, but as a student, I am painfully aware that our state was ranked near the bottom in education in the nation, even before the pandemic. Our youth deserve better than that. The Back on Track Act is a very important, vital step to making things right for our young people. It will help students get back on track because we are behind. The way you, as legislators, take care of education during this crisis will affect our future in ways we cannot even imagine. This is a historic moment for you to take action. I urge you to support us, support our learning, support us getting back on track. With your support of SB 173, we can restore faith in bringing our academics up to par so that someday we might be able to do great things for the state that we love, having the foundation of a solid education to empower us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Crystal, was Crystal able to get on? I don't see her on. Do you want me to go on to the next one?
Yeah, please, Chair Dennis. Perhaps she had technical difficulties. I don't know, but please go ahead. And if she catches up with us, we'll include her.
Okay. I have been given a statement from Yesenia Serrato Gonzalez, Yesenia Serrato Gonzalez, Gonzales. She says, Good afternoon, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to give my testimony about the importance of SB 173, not only to me, but my children and my community as well. My name is Yesenia Serrato Gonzalez, and I am a single mother of 3 amazing sons enrolled in CCSD, which include my special needs my son in an IEP in 5th grade, and my neurotypical sons in 6th and 10th grade. As State Senator Marilyn Dondero Loop stated, we know that learning loss because of the pandemic is a crisis that threatens to set many of our kids back with the potential of leaving behind a widened achievement gap. If we don't work now to correct it, it will have implications for their education development for years to come. I have seen my sons immensely impacted by regression that virtual learning has caused, from connectivity problems that cause truancy and grading errors to extreme anguish and mental distress, especially with my special needs son. My sons went from honor roll A, B students to failing subjects because of the type of instruction all 3 of my sons needed was in-person instruction, particularly with my special needs son who has an IEP tailored to his educational needs, and virtual education did not meet or comply with his needs as well as many others. I believe there's no education like having a face-to-face interaction and instructing with your teacher. And I will quote State Senator Marilyn Dondero Loop, "I know firsthand there is no substitute for one-on-one instruction with students at any grade level in any subject. Our teachers are essential to the success of our kids. The fact is there is simply no way to replicate the in-person instruction and the one-on-one time that we spend with our students. SB 173 would allow many children in our community to catch up, especially those with LEP limited English proficient or or ESL English as a second language to also feel full support, both academically and mentally, as a huge burden would be lifted off their shoulders. And that would give us parents a sense of peace, knowing that they would be able to take advantage of this bill. As stated by Assemblywoman Natha Anderson, we are asking districts to specifically address our students who are most at risk, students who have experienced chronic absenteeism, our students with financial needs, our students who are not quite reading at their grade level, our pre-K, our special needs students. The list is long. As parents, knowing that our children's education would financially be covered and help provide programs that would offer, number 1, free summer school to pre-K through 12th graders, whether in person or virtual learning. Number 2, free transportation. Number 3, free school meals to our children who attend. Number 4, provide counselors to help with mental well-being. And number 5, as Assemblywoman Natha Anderson stated, any educator or staff who participate would receive supplemental pay equal to their regular contract pay rate. I support the Back on Track Act and the intent behind it to give every child the key opportunity to be successful academically. This will also help boost their self-esteem, which is vital to their mental health and well-being. This will help our children to get back on track. We cannot allow more children to fall behind and to become part of another statistic. Let me see if it doesn't look like we have Crystal online. With that, I believe, unless you have somebody else presenting, I believe that I will move on to support testimony.
Please do, Mr. Chair.
Great. All right. So we will next hear testimony in support. And just as a reminder, you have 2 minutes, and there'll be a 30-second warning. And when you get on, state and spell your name for the record. So we're going to hear testimonies in support. So BPS, if you could put on the first caller.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 173, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in support on SB 173, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits 020, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mary Beth Seawald, last name Sewald. I'm the president and CEO of the Vegas Chamber of Commerce. The Vegas Chamber is in support of Senate Bill 173. We believe this bill will help K through 12 students from across the state catch up on some of the months lost learning due to COVID-19, the entire pandemic. As we all know, and as has been stated, the harsh reality is that the pandemic has set back learning for all Nevada students. Even in cases with the most engaged teachers, students, and parents, home learning just could never fully replace in-classroom teaching. As a result, many of our students need summer school to get up to speed on coursework so they can advance to the next grade. Reports show that the pandemic has caused even more losses among students related to the achievement gap. And again, we know that's something that we also struggle with in Nevada. So this funding for summer school will also help students who are at significant risk of being left behind because of the learning that they lost during COVID. At the Vegas Chamber, we believe these investments of federal dollars from the American Rescue Act are essential to helping students achieve the goal of being either career ready or college ready when they graduate. And the other important thing to consider is that it's not just an investment in the student's future, but it's also Nevada's future by helping to make sure that we have a capable and trained workforce. This bill also provides funding for important services like transportation, meals, and of course, extra lessons as well. And in addition to all of that, by providing those services during summer school, educators and support staff will have the opportunity to work this summer as well. The optional summer school will also provide aid in the transition back to classroom teaching with significant supplemental support to our students when it is time to go back in person. Now we know that recovery can't happen in a single summer, but we can start taking the next vital steps by ensuring each student can achieve their potential despite their grade levels and background. I want to thank you again, Chair Dennis and members of the committee for your time today. On behalf of the Vegas Chamber, we urge you to support this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. If we could go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits 362, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Katie Robbins, K-A-T-I-E-R-O-B-B-I-N-S, and I'm here representing Newzella. Newzella is an online instructional platform that has been invested in developing digital learning tools that have been critical in districts across the country, including here in Nevada, as we have navigated a new world of distance learning. We are here in support of SB 173 because making summer school accessible for all K through 12 students is a step in the right direction to get students caught up. During the pandemic, schools across the state have seen an uptick in failing grades, chronic absenteeism, teacher shortages, and an increase in adolescent suicide. SB 173 will address the difficulties many of our students and teachers face as they navigated distance learning. With a summer program that is accessible to all and balances social, emotional support with academics that focuses on acceleration and not remediation, families can have the opportunity to ensure that their children receive all the support and services they need to make up for any setbacks they experience during the school year. We urge your support of SB 173. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits 069, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Kadani Espinoza, K-A-N-A-N-I-E-S-P-I-N-O-Z-A with the Row Law Group on behalf of the Nevada System of Higher Education. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Education Committee. The Nevada System of Higher Education would like to express our support of Senate Bill 173 and thank the sponsors for bringing this legislation forward. The impacts of COVID-19 have been challenging for all students, and SB 173 seeks to address learning shortfalls that have occurred over the past year. And she supports the use of federal assistance money to ensure continued student success. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits of 184, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and committee members. Matt Walker, M-A-T-T-W-A-L-K-E-R, calling in support on behalf of Opportunity 180. I just want to ditto the comments of everyone who's called in support. Thank Senator Dondero Loop and the others who brought this important measure forward, and point you to a longer statement in support online from Jana Lavin with Opportunity 180. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits 598, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Dennis, Vice Chair Dondero Loop, and members of the Senate Education Committee. For the record, I am Nicole Rourke, Nicolerourke, the Director of Government and Public Affairs for the City of Henderson. Thank you for the opportunity to provide a statement of support for Senate Bill 173. We applaud the work of the Clark County School District to reopen our schools safely, and we look forward to all students returning to the classroom. While we acknowledge the efforts of our schools and the many community partners who helped to make distance education possible this year, the reported increase in failing grades alone indicates that many children have suffered a loss of learning during this time and achievement gaps have widened. In these extraordinary times and with the unique opportunity of available funding, we must take bold and immediate action to provide the additional supports our students urgently need. Since 2015, the City of Henderson has invested in Henderson schools with revenues from marijuana business license fees and redevelopment area set-aside funds. We committed $200,000 to ensure that every Henderson student has access to a Chromebook for distance education this year, and have designated almost $700,000 to continue support for distance education into the next school year. The City of Henderson will be a partner in supporting our schools with supplemental learning, and we look forward to the passage of this bill and approval of a plan to address student learning losses and to move forward in Clark County. Thank you.
Okay, the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits 918, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis, Vice Chair Dondero Loop, and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Jeff Horn, Jeffhorn, and I am the Deputy Executive Director with the Clark County Association of School Administrators and Professional Technical Employees. Our organization represents approximately 1,300 Clark County School District administrators, with 98% of those eligible to join our association are current members. We would like to voice our support for Senate Bill 173. With the loss of in-person learning that has occurred as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is imperative that extra measures and wraparound services outlined in this bill are provided to our students who have received limited in-person instruction due to mandated distance learning over the past school year. Summer school sessions offered free of charge, specifically targeting students who are most at risk, will provide much needed relief and support to school-aged children and their families who are desperately in need of help. We appreciate the efforts of Assemblywomen Anderson and Torres for sponsoring this bill and bringing it forward. If passed, this bill will enhance student achievement and provide stabilization as well as a pathway back to traditional in-person learning while still allowing opportunities for students to connect online. I thank you for your time and consideration on Senate Bill 173.
Thank you very much. Next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits 054, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Education Committee. My name is Leslie Pittman, Lesley-Pittman, and I'm here today on behalf of the nonprofit Waterfall Upstart in support of Senate Bill 173. We applaud the sponsors of this legislation for their efforts to address stalled academic advancement and learning loss that has occurred throughout the school year as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. Waterfall Upstart is an online kindergarten readiness program that fills gaps in the provision of early childhood education when parents are either unwilling or unable to access site-based pre-K for their 4-year-olds. For example, when the Lyon County School District had to suspend their pre-K program last year due to their inability to meet classroom spacing requirements brought on by the pandemic, Waterfall Upstart stood ready to help provide the district with its online curriculum that is both aligned with Nevada early childhood education standards and requires parent engagement. With passage of Senate Bill 173, we look forward to having the opportunity to work with all Nevada school districts to determine how our program may help them ensure as many of our 4-year-olds are able to get back on track and ready for fall kindergarten classes throughout the summer months of 2021. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 092, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin. Caller with the last three digits, 092, please press *6 to unmute. You have 2 minutes. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record, and you may begin.
Chair Dennis and members. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Committee on Education. For the record, my name is Alex Bybee, representing Communities and Schools of Nevada, ALEX-BYBEE. Our organization stands in support of Senate Bill 173 for two primary reasons: ensuring equity and access to summer learning opportunities to close gaps created during the closure of school buildings is aligned with our mission and service to Nevada's most vulnerable students. And transportation and nutrition have historically been barriers to participation in summer learning opportunities. And we're pleased that the bill encourages school districts to address these barriers to the extent practicable in their plans to the Superintendent of Public Instruction. As CIS of Nevada looks to the necessary recovery and re-engagement strategy for our students, we know that the need is greater than ever. By passing Senate Bill 173, we ensure that further inequities are addressed. We urge the committee's passage of SB 173 and thank the primary champions of this bill, including Senator Dondera Loop and Assemblywoman Natha Anderson, and Nevada's congressional delegation who voted to support the relief dollars that are bringing necessary support to Nevada and to our education system.
Thank you. Let's go on to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 577, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. Chris Bailey, DALY, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSCA supports SB 173 to create meaningful summer school programs to address the missed opportunities as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and its focus on education equity. NSCA is also submitting an amendment for consideration related to retirement accrual for education support professionals. In our history, there have been few more challenging times in the past year with the COVID-19 crisis. After school buildings closed, NSCA members quickly responded with classroom teachers engaging their students in distance learning and food service workers on the front lines, providing meals to our families in our districts. This school year, members are responding in a diversity of ways, depending on their district and the status of the COVID-19 crisis in their communities. Some educators have been back at their school building offering full in-person instruction. Others are working in hybrid models, juggling in-person learning with distance learning opportunities, while others have been working to create meaningful education experiences through full distance learning and are only now heading back into the classroom for hybrid. However, educators understand distance education is not an ideal replacement for in-person classroom learning for most students, and educators have been concerned about the impact the COVID-19 crisis is having on education equity. In a nationwide survey of educators conducted by the National Education Association last year, educators' top concerns with distance learning were providing the same level of education for all students, the complexity of teaching students with disabilities, and absenteeism among students. Educators who work in schools with higher percentage of students receiving free and reduced lunch reported lower class attendance and felt distance learning was less effective for their students. As most Nevada students are now able to access some form of in-person education, the summer is an important opportunity for learning and enrichment, especially for students with disabilities, students who are credit deficient, low-income students, our youngest students, and those who have been chronically absent. NSCA would like to acknowledge our parent organization, the National Education Association, for their role in helping to secure funding to address this issue in the American Rescue Plan. NSCA also applauds in this legislation providing compensation for working in summer school based upon the contract rate, as lower summer school rates fail to attract enough experienced educators. We would ask school districts who run extended school years or extended studies this summer to consider parity in compensation for educators working in those other summer programs. We also are submitting an amendment for the committee's consideration related to retirement benefits for education support professionals who, unlike their licensed counterparts, would otherwise not accrue retirement service credits during the summer months they're not working. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 090. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Amanda Morgan, A-M-A-N-D-A-M-O-R-G-A-N. I'm the Executive Director of Educate Nevada Now. ENN supports the passage of SB 173 and would like to thank the sponsors for their focus on how to best support students as they seek to return to some semblance of normalcy. SB 173 will provide our students with enhanced summer school opportunities that will lead to improved academics, social and emotional health, and confidence. Students choosing in-person learning will see their friends and teachers and begin to adapt to a return to the classroom. Students choosing virtual learning will continue to receive the support and be better prepared for the fall. Whether districts adopted in-person learning early on or focus mostly on hybrid or virtual learning, this bill will provide an opportunity to help students find a path to success over the summer months. Federal stimulus dollars afford schools the opportunity to successfully transition out of this challenging year with creative solutions. SB 173 encourages districts to engage their communities and state leaders in developing a path out of this crisis. We look forward to supporting our educators, administrators, and support professionals in this monumental task. We have been inspired by their drive over the past year to continue serving students under circumstances no one could ever imagine. ENN is happy to support SB 173 along with our schools and students as they navigate a return to the upcoming school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 618. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the Senate Education Committee. For the record, my name is Deanne Hicks, D-E-A-N-N-E-H-I-C-K-S. I'm currently a teacher for Washoe County and a senior policy fellow with Nevada Teach Plus. Today, I offer the perspective of an individual who has experienced Nevada's educational diversity, having attended and graduated from Eureka County, completed my teaching degree, teaching requirements, and substitute taught in Clark County, and spent all of my teaching career in Washoe and Elko County. Please accept this testimony as my support for SB 173, the Back on Track Act. I have been a public school teacher for 28 years, all of them in Title I schools. The last 4 years I've taught at Natchez, a small school on the Pyramid Lake Paiute Reservation that serves about 97% Native American school children from pre-K to 5th grade. Having spent all of my career in schools with disenfranchised students, I've seen a great amount of inequity. The pandemic has impacted all students from all demographics and socioeconomic status. However, it has disproportionately impacted students in the Title I communities at an even greater rate than what we would normally experience in any given school year. While summer school will not solve all of our problems, it will give us the opportunity to identify and offer individualized time toward academic development for students who need it. A few years back, I tutored 3 boys for several weeks during the summer. At the end of the tutoring time, they were not yet to grade level standard. What they gained were specific and individualized strategies that helped them navigate through their deficiencies and build the confidence and tools that they needed to master their own education and academic destinies. Summer school allows us to teach outside the boundaries of the regular school year. It provides the time and space for teachers to strategize and build learning opportunities that support each student's individual learning limitations. Thank you, Chair Dennis and members of the committee for your time and commitment to ensuring that Nevada continues to move in a progressive approach toward building an educational foundation for all the students that live in the Silver State.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 149. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Dennis and Vice Chair Dondera Loop, Senate Education Committee, Superintendent Ebert. This is Annette Dawson-Owen, School Readiness Policy Director at the Children's Advocacy Alliance, ANNETTEDAWSONOWENS. The Children's Advocacy Alliance supports SB 173 for many reasons, 3 of which I will briefly mention. 1, it's critical for us to address and understand students' learning loss. In high school and middle school, many of our students may be credit and learning deficient, not only in core subjects, but also in the arts. I've witnessed this personally with my own son struggling to learn the trumpet virtually. We know in elementary schools, our students need a strong start in high quality instruction. The best single indicator of a child's future success is their school readiness. We also support SB 173 due to CAA's commitment to equity and access for all of our students, to an excellent education, as has been previously mentioned, and especially for those of our students who are most at risk. 3, we know that this is critical to our economic recovery and is directly related to our future workforce development here in Nevada. There are successful models all across the country who do this well. We can build upon what works nationally as well as create our own programs for each of our districts. This is also a time for us to be innovative in our approach to Back on Track and summer school. We can focus on the social and emotional learning that is necessary now, engagement, mastery learning. This can be a time for innovation and rethinking education, as well as possible community partnerships and investing in education for all our students in all core subjects and areas. I want to thank all those who have been involved in championing this bill, and again, extend our support for SB 173. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 676, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Crystal Walker, spelled Kristalwalker. I'm a sophomore at Advanced Technologies Academy in Las Vegas, and I'm here to read the testimony of Joanna Bieta into the record. My name is Joanna Bieta, a senior at Advanced Technologies Academy in Las Vegas. As a youth legislator in the Nevada Youth Legislature, I hold an active interest in serving not only my district's thousands of students, but Nevada's in entirety. As a lifelong Nevadan student who has experienced nearly an entire school year online, I know that Senate Bill 173 is what can get our kids back on track. I came into the school year with the expectation that it would be rough. I didn't expect to have my education time cut in half, not see friends I've grown up at all with since last December, or even witness my own grades drop. Unfortunately, these issues are farther reaching than just my school. They reverberate all throughout Nevada. When 38% of students are receiving at least one failing grade in the Clark County School District, we desperately need summer learning options. When 50% of high school students are chronically absent in Washoe County School District, we desperately need a redeeming credit and attendance option. When it seems that 100% of students feel behind in some capacity, it's our responsibility to change that. Passing this bill is the first step in recognizing a solution that goes beyond any of us. Namely, Senate Bill 173 provides employees with a steady stream of income, allays several financial concerns of parents like my own, and beyond all else, encourages and educates students who have already lost so much. Further, the populations we see consistently bearing the worst of the pandemic, financially, educationally, and emotionally, will be prioritized most, as this bill effectively establishes mental health services, lunch services, and more, all at no additional charge. This school year does not have to be defined by thousands falling behind. By passing, you have the opportunity to equip our students and educators with tools necessary to forge ahead and fight back. Thank you to the chair and committee for your time.
Thank you. Great to hear from you, Crystal. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 989, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Espinosa. That's EMILYESPINOSA. On behalf of the Nevada Association of School Administrators. NASA is the professional organization that represents school administrators throughout the state of Nevada, and as stated in our mission statement, our first primary function is to promote legislation that improves education within the state. SB 173 addresses the need for a plan to combat the loss of learning during the COVID-19 pandemic response, falling in line exactly with our goal as an organization. We appreciate the sponsors for bringing forward this important legislation and urge your support and passage. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 874, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Garcia, REBECCA-GARCIA. Thank you, Chair Dennis and members for the opportunity. I am the president of Nevada PTA. As the mother of 3 Clark County students who just reached their year milestone of distance learning, we have personally felt the difficulties brought about by the worldwide pandemic. Even with the best efforts of educators, schools, and families, many students, including my own children, have struggled to learn and be engaged during this year. As Senator Dondero-Loop has already shared, often the students that have felt the impact of this last year the hardest are those with the greatest needs. The pandemic and resulting education upheaval have exacerbated already existing equity gaps, which many have already shared today. Now that school buildings across our state are expanding, reopening, we can use this opportunity to gain momentum in closing these gaps to ensure that all students can reach their full potential. Nevada PTA supports SB 173, the Back on Track Act, to use strategically in a targeted way the federal funds provided by the American Rescue Act to bolster summer learning programs across the state with no cost to families. The Act directs districts to prioritize those with the greatest potential learning loss, an important step to ensuring that students can catch up from this year. More importantly, the legislation would ensure that essential supports, including providing meals, transportation, and a focus on emotional and mental health, be taken care of to break down barriers to participation. For many families, transportation is the deciding factor for whether a child would be able to participate in summer learning. For program success, equity and access must be prioritized, which the Back on Track Act does, and we thank Senator Dondero-Loop and Assemblywoman Natha Anderson for bringing forward this legislation. We urge your support and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 486. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Holmes Sutton. I'm a National Board Certified Teacher. First name Tonia, last name HOLMES-SUTTON. I'd like to acknowledge that I am also a member for the Nevada State Public Charter School Authority Board. However, I am not speaking in that capacity today. Today, I speak in the capacity of the Executive Director for Teach Plus Nevada. Thank you so much, Chair Dennis and Vice Chair Dondero-Loop and members of the Senate Education Committee for this opportunity to speak in support of SB 173. Nevada's children, families, and educators have been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 crisis and the modified engagement of schooling during the past year. The transition to distance, remote, and hybrid learning has not been without its challenges. And in-person learning is remarkably different than it was prior to the pandemic. Reflecting upon the bill's purpose and intent, Teach Plus Nevada supports SB 173 in its commitment to address education issues with proposed plans that are in alignment with the Teach Plus values of being solutions-oriented and focused on equity and access. As SB 173 attends to and includes the following: a plan to address loss of learning that occurred as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, targets students who are most at risk of loss of learning, the opportunity to attend summer school either in person or through a program of virtual learning, and provision of transportation and certain meals to pupils who attend summer school. In support of SB 173, Teach Plus Nevada respectfully offers the following considerations: that there would be a prioritization of equitable funding and award distribution of federal monies to administer the proposed summer school programming, and that there would be the opportunity to address needs of most academically vulnerable communities that have been significantly and disproportionately impacted by COVID-19, and that there would be a promotion of instructional leadership that prioritizes accelerated learning versus remediated learning, strategically preparing students for success, readying them for new learning, and emphasizing self-efficacy, relevancy, and connection. We'd also note the encouragement and facilitation of recruitment of diverse students, families, educators, and leadership by communicating engagement opportunities to diverse student populations and communities, and including the reporting of those diverse demographics of those students that participate in the summer group programming. Thank you so much again for this opportunity, Chair Dennis and Vice Chair Dondero-Loop, and a appreciation for Senator Dondero-Loop and Assemblywoman Natha Anderson for bringing this legislation forward.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 969. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
My name is Brian Wachter, BryanWachter, on behalf of the Retail Association of Nevada. We know that economic output is a function of innovation and the skills that workers bring to their jobs and the machines that they use to create goods and services. And we know that innovation and skills are shaped by education. We also know, thanks to Professor Hanushek and Professor Margaret Raymond at Stanford University, that they're projecting 25 trillion to 30 trillion of lost economic output for the next century. And they estimate that the lifetime household income for students affected during this pandemic will be 6 to 9% lower. The vertical alignment of our academic standards provides all the roadmap we need to understand the holes our students will have as they progress and build on standards that they may have not yet mastered. SB 173 provides a clear pathway and guidance to school districts as they rise to this challenge of combating the effects of COVID-19 and the effect it has had on the education of our students. And we strongly urge your support for Senate Bill 173.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 781. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Nick Vanderpool, NICK-VANDERPOEL, with Capital Partners today, representing the Reno Sparks Chamber of Commerce. I won't repeat what many of my colleagues have already put on the record in support of Senate Bill 173, but we all can agree that the pandemic has had a significant impact on students in every part of the Silver State. And this is a step in the right direction for Nevada's education community, and appreciate Senator Dondero Loop and Assemblywoman Anderson and everyone involved for bringing this bill forward. So thank you, Chair and committee members, for your time, and happy St. Patty's Day.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 087. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Chair Dennis and members of the committee, I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of SB 173. My name is Jared Luke, Jared Luke. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the City of North Las Vegas. I echo many of the comments that have been already said before me. I just want to add, in August of 2020, when it was evident that CCSD was going to remain closed for the foreseeable future, Mayor and Council instructed staff to stand up SNUMA. They said, listen, based on the history of systemic racism and digital divide in North Las Vegas, these kids are going to struggle with distance learning. And so SNUMA, as we affectionately refer to it, is the Southern Nevada Urban Micro Academy. It was a micro school concept that we stood up quickly in August, and to serve kids in North Las Vegas that did not have the availability of internet or a device, that were going to struggle with distance learning. And I cannot tell you how awesome that program has been. And speaking from a position of data in terms of learning loss, we've been able to track these kids, and we've been able to see where they've come in as far as, were they behind, were they on schedule as far as state milestones, if you will. And a lot of the kids came in and they were a little bit behind grade average. And being in SNUMA, being with a person-to-person teaching and instruction, and following along with their online courses, a lot of these kids have come up to where they need to be grade-wise, and some have actually surpassed in certain areas. So when we discuss this concept of learning loss, we can tell you from a data position that it is real, and that this bill is very timely, and we support it wholeheartedly. Mayor and Council support it wholeheartedly, and if there's anything that we can do from a data perspective to assist in this bill, the City of North Las Vegas is available. So thank you, Chair, for the time. And if I could really quick, I want to say thank you to Superintendent Ebert for her leadership and assistance and guidance through all of this. She's been a huge help. Again, Chair, thank you. And that concludes my testimony.
Thank you. Let's go to the next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 849. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and committee members. My name is Jen Blackhurst, JENNBLACKHURST, and I am testifying on behalf of the 1,000+ members of Hope for Nevada in support of SB 173. We are extremely grateful to be receiving federal funds targeted towards providing educational supports for our students who are most in need. We appreciate that the language of this bill works to pinpoint those areas demanding additional attention, like credit deficiency, beginning learners, and students experiencing the most instability. We are grateful that this bill also incorporates the inclusion of transportation and meal components, which we know will make a great difference in the ability of children to participate. And lastly, we think the reporting due at the conclusion of the programs will provide necessary transparency and data moving into the fall when we consider the next steps for supporting our students. Investing this additional money to combat learning loss is not just a summer fix, but the first step of many, and we look forward to getting our students back on track. We also would like to express our thanks to those who have brought this bill forward and urge you all to support SB 173. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 871. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Janine Collins, Jeanine, Collins, Collins, the Executive Director with Nevada Succeeds. Thank you for the opportunity to share our support of SB 173. The challenges of this year have been reflected in the presentation of this bill and in much of the previous testimony. We particularly appreciate the explicit equity and access elements this bill addresses. Something Nevada Succeeds would like to additionally highlight is the open language of the bill, one that affords autonomy to districts, and we hope will include building level leaders in planning and implementation to make choices about how best to meet young people where they are at in their learning journeys this summer. What also excites us is the possibility of accelerating and supporting the lessons young people and educators are still processing from this complicated year. Our research and practitioner experiences recognizes that relevant whole child approaches to active learning are not only more memorable, but also more effective in achieving deeper learning and mastery of standards. As we are now seeing the light at the end of the pandemic tunnel, we all recognize the very real loss of community, connection, and belonging, essential principles for collective success. We honor that this summer can be about building on the valuable insights of learners of all ages. How might summer school create the space for our community, students, and educators to play, engage, reflect, and transform learning ahead? SB 173 recognizes that student needs include, but are not limited to, credit deficiencies, grade level learning targets, STEM, and arts engagement. With such a spacious definition, SB 173 empowers those closest to young people to identify and build the meaningful opportunities ahead and report out on what is learned. We appreciate and support the sponsor's desires to create the space for context-specific experiences, and we look forward to learning from the successes initiated in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in support on SB 173, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 090, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, my name is Erin Phillips, ErinPhillips. I am the president of Power to Parent, and I represent nearly 10,000 parents across the state of Nevada. Parents want their children to have access to a quality education, and distance education has not provided that for the majority of students. Since the beginning of this school year, we have called for schools to be open and have shed light on the glaring inequities for students related to access and learning loss. We know deficits in achievement already existed before students were forced online, but these gaps have only continued to widen, especially for our most vulnerable students. Those with less resources and less parental availability have experienced the most loss. Since October, we have called for CCSD and other districts to prioritize summer bridge programs in order to help eliminate some of this loss. While we still need to get many kids back into classrooms, this is a good opportunity to prioritize kids who have lost so much already. We want to thank Senator Dondera Loop for her commitment to helping students in need, and we urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 944. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chairman Dennis, Vice Chairman Dondero Loop, members of the committee. My name is Alexandra Dominguez. That's ALEXANDRADOMINGUEZ. And I'm here with the College Board here in support of Senate Bill 173. As a partner working with students, districts, and education leaders across Nevada to provide AP coursework, the PSAT and SAT, and other initiatives that prepare students to be college and career ready, we want to thank you for the actions you've taken to ensure that students can continue to learn during these difficult times. SB 173 is definitely one of those important actions that will help address some of the exacerbated inequities caused by learning loss as a result of the pandemic, and it'll be instrumental in helping students get back on track so as to be better prepared for things like advanced coursework and post-secondary success. We'd like to thank Senator Dondero Loop, Assemblywomen Anderson and Torres for bringing this forward. We stand ready to be a partner and a resource to you all as you navigate these difficult challenges, and we look forward to working together for Nevada students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next caller.
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Okay, let's go on now to, we will now hear testimony in opposition to Senate Bill 173. Please add the next caller.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. To testify in opposition on SB 173, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in opposition on SB 173, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 185, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
For the record, this is Jonathan Seinold, JONATHANSYNOLD, and I'm a principal in CCSD, but today I'm testifying as a parent of a second and fourth grader in CCSD. Although I applaud the effort to expand summer school and I love a lot of things in this bill, I'm concerned with one aspect of the bill as currently written. Section 1A4 specifically limits elementary schools from only allowing pre-K to third graders to summer school. You allow nearly all middle and high school students to return because of the multiple subject areas covered in the bill, which is great. Yet the bill specifically excludes fourth and fifth graders who also have the highest class sizes in elementary school and were excluded from this month's hybrid learning in CCSD. Just to put the bill in context, Section 1A5 allows a middle school student who is struggling in band to receive summer school assistance, but a fourth grader who's years behind in math would be excluded from summer school. This bill specifically excludes fourth and fifth graders, which sets them up to fail in middle school and beyond. Learning loss is just as real with our fourth graders as it is with our seventh graders, and it's critical we support all students. I encourage a revision of this bill to include fourth and fifth graders so all students can receive the help they need. Thank you to the committee for your time.
Thank you. Next caller.
If you have recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition on SB 173, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, thank you. Let's go then now to testimony in for those who wishing to testify in neutral on the bill.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in neutral on SB 173, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, to testify in neutral on SB 173, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 927, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Hello, and thank you, Committee Chair Dennis and committee members. My name is Hava Ahmed, Hawahahmad, and I am here representing the Clark County Education Association, reading public comment for our president, Marie Nices. The Clark County Education Association represents more than 18,000 licensed professionals in the Clark County School District. We are the largest independent teachers union in the country and in the state of Nevada. We engage in bipartisan advocacy for advancing public education in Nevada. CCEA is testifying in neutral on Senate Bill 173. There is no question that academic opportunities to address learning loss are a necessary component of the K-12 education system following this post-pandemic world. We support the formation of a program with summer school opportunities for our students who have suffered academically from the pandemic. We would like to commend the sponsors of this bill for their passion for ensuring that every student in Nevada is given an opportunity to reduce learning loss attributed to the disparities of access and equity, and appreciate the sponsors' efforts to move this bill and reach out to us. CCEA is testifying in neutral because we need additional clarification on the role of NDE in approving academic plans submitted by school districts. Additionally, CCEA needs to understand the role of NDE as the fiscal mediator between federal dollars and school districts. Currently, the fiscal parameters of the summer learning plan have not been detailed. For example, is there a limited amount of funds or a cap that a district can access? All summer learning plans are in large part contingent upon the fiscal impact. CCEA is concerned that there will be a fiscal cap on the federal dollars given to our state for education that will inhibit flexibility to provide our educators with incentives to return to the classroom over the summer. As it stands, it will be a very difficult push to get our educators to return to the classroom over the summer. Many of our educators have put in long hours into distance learning and are already overwhelmed with the transition to in-person learning. To get our educators back in the classroom for summer, we need flexibility to provide incentives and create collective bargaining agreements with CCSD to ensure that our teachers are supported as the heroes every Nevadan called them when this pandemic began. Further, CCEA needs flexibility to ensure that special education and specialized instructional support personnel can be on campus to help address our students' special education, mental health, and behavioral health needs. To ensure that students receive the support they need and deserve, CCEA needs flexibility regarding the compensation levels for educators and support personnel. The current draft and amendment of the bill says the rate of compensation for an educator is the regular contract rate or whatever may be in a collective bargaining agreement. However, we know from experience that that amount will not be enough to get the number of educators needed to support summer learning. More flexible language will help us get there. Depending on the fiscal availability, we do not know if SB 173 is feasible. Given the presence of other summer learning opportunities such as ESY and 21st Century, we want to ensure that efforts are not duplicated and instead provide an impactful opportunity for students to get back on track. We must reiterate that we appreciate the intent of this bill, but want to ensure that our educators are supported so that the education provided to students is impactful. We look forward to working with this bill's sponsors and our bargaining partner, CCSD, to continue conversations about summer learning opportunities. We are committed to making this happen and are actively working towards ensuring that the K-12 education delivery system is optimally funded. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the last three digits, 202. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Paige Barnes, P-A-I-G-E-B-A-R-N-E-S. I am here today representing the Nevada Association of School Boards, which includes all school board members in the state. We are neutral on SB 173. As school board trustees, we have seen the negative impacts of the worldwide pandemic and have taken action to mitigate the learning loss while keeping our students safe. All school districts have some in-person learning options, and the majority have been open since August. The needs of the state are not uniform and must be considered at a local level. Summer school has been used for years to provide continuous learning and bridge gaps for all students, including our low-performing and minority students. All school districts are preparing to provide summer school and have started the planning process. School board members will review and approve the plans. We all want to provide a robust program this summer and provide services to all students who want it. To best meet the needs of all students, decisions should be made at the local level. Our school board members and school districts understand the gaps in learning and can identify where to target resources and funding. We acknowledge and plan to use summer school as a tool to address the needs of our students, including learning loss. In addition, we will continue to leverage the federal funding for other targeted resources to help our most vulnerable students and students impacted by the pandemic. We are still reviewing the amendments proposed today and will provide feedback to the committee at a later date. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 692. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. My name is Mary Krasinski, MaryPierczynski, and I represent the Nevada Association of School Superintendents. It's an organization composed of all 17 superintendents. We want to thank the two sponsors of the bill, both of whom have dedicated their lives to educating children, Senator Don Darrell Loop and Assemblywoman Anderson. But a special thank you to Senator Don Darrell Loop for working with us on this bill, taking our phone calls and meeting with us. We would also like to thank Superintendent Ebert for her work. We all realize the importance of extinguishing the learning loss, and that is why we are all working so hard on this bill to clarify issues. We have the same goal of getting our students back on track and look forward to our continued work on this bill. And thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 411. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Lindsay Anderson, LINDSAYANDERSON, representing the Washoe County School District. We are neutral and we appreciate the intent and will continue working on the proposed amendments with Senator Don Darrell Loop. The Washoe County School District is creating a response to recovery 2-year strategic plan. While our elementary school students have been in school 5 days a week during the school year, our middle and high school students have been on an every other day hybrid plan. We know it will take time and dedication for our students to recover academically and for our students and staff to recover emotionally from this difficult year. Federal funding through the American Recovery Plan will help support our efforts to implement system-wide supports. We're planning to gather public input for our response to recovery plan and the use of federal monies with a survey beginning the week of March 29th. Our plan will incorporate feedback we receive from families to ensure maximum participation and satisfaction to the needs of our community. In partnership with nonprofit and community agencies, we're creating academically focused and appealing summer school programs with both in-person and virtual options, and we will strongly encourage our students and families to participate. Summer programming is scheduled to begin the week of June 21st, 3 days per week at all levels, Tuesday through Thursday for 4 consecutive weeks, and will be offered to all students. There will be in-person available as well as asynchronous on-demand options. Transportation and meals will be provided. Elementary schools will have its new theme each week, focusing on social emotional learning, targeted interventions and support, and will be working with partners such as PBS Reno. Middle school will also focus on STEM, STEAM with targeted interventions and activities. A Jumpstart program for incoming 9th graders will focus on transition to high school, math, English language, and social emotional learning. Our high school efforts will focus on credit accrual and recovery, social emotional learning, and social activities. The primary objective will be to make summer school as appealing as possible to ensure the highest participation and re-engagement of our students. We are committed to serving our students during summer school as well as other creative learning opportunities outside the regular school year for as long as it takes to get our students back on track. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last three digits, 080. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Brad Keating, BRADKEATING, representing the Clark County School District. While the district is here today in a neutral capacity, we want to thank the sponsors for their work on this bill and for reaching out and meeting with the superintendents from all over the state. CCSD acknowledges that the pandemic has been especially difficult on our kids. The way they are traditionally educated in a classroom completely changed for the past year, and we will need to address the effects it will have on our children in the future. Summer school has been offered to students in past years, and this year we will continue to provide this opportunity to our students. CCSD has been in conversations with our bargaining partners so we can start planning our summer programs needed to address and accelerate the academic loss from this pandemic. We, like the legislature, understand that additional families may be seeking summer school opportunities as a way to build upon a year of distance education. We are committed to offering our students extended learning opportunities to overcome the issues that have been caused by this pandemic, as well as working with our partners, like the Nevada System of Higher Education, who testified earlier today, to ensure that all students across the state can get back on track to reach their academic pursuits. We look forward to continuing our work with the bill sponsors, the legislature, and the Nevada Department of Education so that we can address the learning loss of all students in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Once again, if you'd like to testify in neutral on SB 173, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else in the queue?
There is one caller in the queue, but they may be tuning in for listening or for public comment.
Okay, I think, well, we've had a lot of comment. I will, let's see, where are we at? Okay, before I go to, I'm gonna have Senator Dondero Loop do some closing remarks. I missed one of our members had her hand up right before while we were still in presentation. And I'm going to allow Senator Buck, if you would ask a question, if it's real quick, if it's more complicated, I would ask you to go offline. So if you would ask it real quick.
Yeah, just really quick. So I was excited to see that, due to Read by 3 in 2015, how fourth graders increased their student achievement. And so I just wondered, what accountability for tracking student data? Will there be a pre-post assessment? How is this similar to Read by 3? Because actually it showed success. And so I apologize that I'm clicking on the hand up in the chat, but I'm not knowing how to get attention.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't see that. I don't. So. Okay, so, and I'm going to let Senator Dondero Loop, if you would like to answer that. Otherwise, if you could just get with her and if you have it in your closing comments. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close. Well, no, I won't close the hearing yet because I want to hear closing comments from Senator Dondero Loop. So if you go.
Chair Dennis, did you want me to go ahead and answer Senator Buck's question?
Yeah, if you can, if it's real quick, I don't want to, if you're ready to go, that's fine.
Senator Buck, Marilyn Dondero Loop for the record. There will be some accountability of achievement. It may be different for every district. I can throw that over to Superintendent Ebert, but that is why we asked them to submit a plan because in there, and they will also be submitting reports. But I will throw that over to Superintendent Ebert and see if she wants to add anything to that. Otherwise, we can take it offline and answer that later.
Thank you, Chair Dennis. Thank you, Vice Chair Marilyn Dondero Loop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. So with that, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, we'd like to thank each of you for your questions and participation today. All of us want what's best for the children of our state. All of us want them to be prepared for the future. As a former 30-year educator, as I've mentioned, and the grandmother of 5 school-aged children, I believe that this Back on Track Act is the logical glue that will help catch Nevada students who have fallen behind and ensure a return to normalcy in the fall under a new school year. With this legislation, we will be able to restore the relationship between teachers and their students and empower children to learn in a setting where they can thrive. This past year has been a tough one for all of our kids, not just because of the emotional disadvantages of distance learning, but also the mental toll of being away from their teachers and their friends. Many of our students have felt isolated, and by allowing them to return to school this summer, we not only allow them to catch up on their school work, but we also allow them the opportunity to return to a day-to-day life that more resembles their lives before the pandemic. We will be able to alleviate the mental and educational burdens many have faced as a result of virtual learning. We are all looking forward to the day when this pandemic is behind us. The Back on Track Act will ensure that when it is all over, our kids will have the ability to transition more seamlessly into a brighter future. We have the resources we need to fund this initiative, the educators to execute it, and the students who are ready to learn. All we need now is for the legislature to empower our school districts to establish these programs to the long-term health and benefit of not just our students, but our communities as a whole. And before I leave you, I would ask that Chair Dennis and Senators Lang and Donate read into the record the letters we have received from the Nevada congressional delegation. And with that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, from a member of the community that serve our children. And just for the record, there was reference to 4th and 5th grade students not being involved. Those were examples of things that schools might want to consider, but most certainly this is a K through 12 school plan. So thank you again, and I appreciate all the support.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate the presentation, and I believe we have our congressional folks. So let's start with Senator Lang. I believe you have a couple to do, so if you would read those.
Yes, thank you. Dear Chair Dennis, members of the Senate Education Committee, I'm writing to voice my support for SB 173, the Back on Track Act, introduced by Senator Marilyn Dondero-Loop and Assemblywoman Natha Anderson, which will require school districts to develop plans to address learning loss during the COVID-19 pandemic. Over the course of the pandemic, Nevada students and families have made sacrifices to protect and promote public health. As schools largely remain closed, students attended school remotely, often while their parents, guardians, or household members also worked and studied from home. Our students and teachers faced issues ranging from broadband access, technology access, social isolation, limited peer-to-peer interaction. Students of color and students from low-income households endured the brunt of these challenges, in addition to pre-existing inequities. On March 12, 2021, President Biden signed into law the American Rescue Plan Act, which allocates over $120 billion for elementary and secondary schools. 20% of the funds received by the local education agencies, 5% of the funds received by state educational agencies are reserved for addressing students' learning loss. The Back on Track Act will ensure that the funds Congress appropriated reach students and teachers in Nevada classrooms, requiring that every Nevada school district and the Charter School Authority create a learning loss mitigation and recovery plan, which will put our students and schools on the path to recovery and success. Through the COVID-19 pandemic, though the COVID-19 pandemic is not over, steps like the Back to Track Act will play a large part in how we recover together. Thank you in advance for your consideration of this bill. Sincerely, Jackie Rosen, United States Senator. My second letter, dear Chair Dennis, members of the Senate Education Committee, I write to affirm my support of Senate Bill 173, the Back on Track Act. Throughout the pandemic, our state has faced unprecedented challenges that have kept our children away from the classroom. I applaud the work of the Nevada Senate Committee on Education in drafting this legislation to decrease the learning gap, and I urge the Senate as a whole to pass this bill to ensure our students receive the support they need. Over the course of the last year, Nevada's school-age children have lost critical learning time. Some experts believe that on average, children have lost almost 1/3 of a year of learning due to school closures and other interruptions. As a former educator, I know that any reduction in time spent teaching can have a detrimental and long-lasting effect on students. This learning loss has a disproportionate and unacceptable impact on students of color, which, if left unaddressed, could have significant impacts on their lifelong earnings. I proudly voted to pass the American Rescue Plan Act to provide billions of dollars in relief funding to Nevada. Importantly, this bill included $130 billion to help K-12 students safely return to the classrooms, and specifically requires a percentage of the relief to be used to address the learning gap created by the pandemic. Now that President Biden has signed the American Rescue Plan on Darrell Loop and her vision in bringing forth this proposal, I look forward to supporting this work as an advocate for Nevada's educational needs in Congress. Should you have any questions, please contact Madison West in my office, and she gives the number. Sincerely, Dina Titus, Member of Congress. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Doñate.
Thank you. Dear Chair Dennis and committee members, I am writing to express support for the Back on Track Act introduced by Senator Don Darrell Loop and Assemblywoman Nathan Anderson. This bill would require districts to have a learning loss prevention plan to utilize federal education relief funds for summer school. These plans would detail how districts will engage in-person and virtual sessions, reach at-risk students, and provide transportation and meals while also ensuring teachers and support staff are properly compensated. The COVID-19 crisis has changed our education system drastically over the past year, resulting in a widening achievement gap for at-risk students. We must not take steps to close this gap and ensure our students are equipped to succeed despite the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. I have spent my entire career working to improve Nevada's public education system, from starting Clark County's first free after-school program to tackling Nevada's dropout problem when it rose to crisis levels. Last Congress, I was pleased to vote for the bipartisan CARES Act, which takes important steps to address the urgent challenges facing every part of our education system, from early childhood education programs to K-12 schools and institutions of higher education. The CARES Act secured $31 billion in emergency funding to provide urgently needed assistance to students, schools, institutions, and states across the country. Congress also recently passed the American Rescue Plan, which among other things provides $130 billion for K-12 schools and $40 billion for higher education. While my colleagues and I in Congress have prioritized public education, there are still urgent steps that need to be taken here in Nevada to ensure that students in our state don't fall behind. That is why I'm proud to support the Back on Track Act, as it will help meet the needs of our most at-risk students this summer. Although it is difficult to imagine what education may look like for our children in the future, I believe the Back on Track Act is a crucial step to combat the widening achievement gap further perpetuated by the COVID-19 crisis. I am confident that we will have the resources to provide students with comprehensive quality education and the support to help them succeed. Thank you for your consideration of the Back on Track Act. Respectfully, Susie Lee, Member of Congress.
Thank you. And I have a letter from Senator Cortez Masto. Dear members of the Nevada State Senate, I am writing to express my support for SB 173, the Back on Track Act. Over the past year, our state has asked students and their families to make incredible sacrifices to protect public health by transitioning most classrooms to remote learning. Many of our children have dealt with disruptions to their education, social isolation, and lack of access to adequate broadband at home. These challenges have exacerbated longstanding inequities that disproportionately affect minority students, those from low-income families, students with disabilities, and other children from underserved communities. The United States Congress has worked throughout the pandemic to deliver relief to our nation's K-12 schools to ensure that they can continue to serve students in these difficult circumstances. The American Rescue Plan Act, signed into law on March 12th, 2020, allocates over $120 billion for our elementary and secondary school, and also reserves 20% of the funds received by local education agencies and 5% of the funds received by state educational agencies for addressing students' learning loss. The Back on Track Act builds on these efforts by requiring every Nevada school district and the Charter School Authority to create a learning loss prevention plan. The programs created under these plans will be funded by the federal government and will be provided at no cost to parents and families. Educators and staff who participate will also receive supplemental pay. I have heard firsthand from students, teachers, and parents across Nevada about the incredible challenges they have faced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. SB 173 will help address education inequities, reverse learning loss and get our state students back on track. Sincerely, Catherine Cortez Masto, United States Senator. All right. So we appreciate all of the interest and the folks that have testified today. And we will go ahead and bring this hearing to a close on Senate Bill 173. Next item on the agenda is public comment. And I'm going to ask BPS if they would open up for time now for public comment.
Thank you, Chair. To participate in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Once again, if you would like to participate in public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 740, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Dennis and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Stephen, that's S-T-E-V-E-N, Horner, H-O-R-N-E-R, and I live in Senate District 9 and Assembly District 35. I am the Vice President for the Nevada State Education Association Retired and the Clark County Retired Education Association. 2 of my passions are traveling and playing golf in rural Nevada. During the summer of 2015, while playing in a tournament in Ely, Nevada, I fell and broke my oxygen concentrator. Suffering from COPD at close to 7,000 feet above sea level, I needed oxygen and I was not traveling with backup oxygen, so I needed help. I called the local hospital to get any help that was available. However, because I was not yet eligible for Medicare, I would have to pay full fare to get any needed oxygen. I'm a very lucky person. My wife was able to drive from Las Vegas to Ely to bring backup oxygen. However, until she arrived, to keep my oxygen at a safe level, all I had was a albuterol and my nebulizer. Thankfully, my breathing disability had not yet progressed to the point that I needed hospitalization. As long as I stayed inactive, I could maintain acceptable oxygen levels. At that point, I realized that we needed some kind of affordable health coverage for those educators and state workers that either had to retire, could retire before Medicare eligibility, or may not ever qualify for Medicare. Now that I am qualified for Medicare and have supplemental insurance to help defer extra costs of Medicare, like rising costs of prescription drugs, I worry about those individuals that will never qualify for Medicare because of the government pension offset and windfall elimination programs. Even with the supplemental insurance, my quarterly prescription drug costs are well over $1,100 after the $500 deductible is paid. Many of our teachers, support professionals, and state workers will have to make choices to eat or to take needed medication. As the legislative session proceeds, we urge you to work with us to open a conversation and start a study to address this important issue. Teachers, support professionals, and state workers have dedicated their lives to our state, and they deserve the best that we can give them in retirement. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 411, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Lindsay Anderson, L-I-N-D-S-A-Y, on behalf of Anderson, A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N, on behalf of the Washoe County School District with your St. Patrick's Day Good News Minute. I'm happy to report that 60 students from Desert Skies Middle School, one of our new middle schools in Sun Valley, participated in National Introduce a Girl to Engineering Day, sponsored by Envirolutions and Tesla, #EngineerLikeAGirl. Thanks to Counselor Kendra Reyes and Librarian Brenda Arnold for making the event possible, to our amazing scholars, and we're looking forward to seeing what they can accomplish in their future with their new engineering training. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing some good news. Let's go on to the next caller.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 080, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Leonardo Benavides, Leonardo Benavides with CCSD for a Good News Minute. LaCroix County School Board recently approved a $10,000 bonuses for school nurses performing coronavirus-related tasks like testing, contract test tracing, and helping administer vaccines. First aid safety assistants are also receiving an additional stipend for working on the front lines during the pandemic. These incredibly important staff members have already been performing these additional duties, along with routine work like tracking the medical history of students, administering medicine, and responding to medical emergencies. We just wanted to take a moment to thank each of them for your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller.
Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much. Our next meeting is going to be held this Friday. We have a few bills to hear, and that is all the business that we have for today. So with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.